How's everybody doing on this Wednesday in October? I got home at about 6:30 and I decided to do what's called on Zoom etiquette. It's called a mullet of clothing, professional on top, relaxed on the bottom. So just so you know, that's a new term. It's called Zoom mulleting, which is fun. Isn't this great? Okay, so welcome, and I will definitely have some shares for everybody who's here. We're also recording this, and I wanted to start with a quote. Knowing that this is the eve of parent-teacher conferences, knowing that our children are the most important thing that we have done. Isn't it weird when we say that, the most important thing? Because they're little tiny humans, but we put so much work into our children, and it is almost impossible for parents to not somehow take comments, criticisms to heart, right? Because my favorite quote when I became a parent was, when you have a child, your heart walks outside your body. So knowing that I get that all of us at Ross get that as well, I just want to talk about parent-teacher conferences and how they've changed and evolved, not only in the US education system, but at Ross specifically. And it can be a really exciting and informative meeting for you. And I know that sometimes, depending on your own experience as a grown-up, now, child now in a grown-up's body, sometimes it brings up fears and it can really ping some weird parts of us, and we maybe don't even know that's happening. So a couple quotes that I found that I thought you'd like from Robert Fulghum, actually, these four. The first one is, all I really need to know I learned in kindergarten. Have any of you read that book? Give me a thumbs up if you have. It's a classic. It's a not just a book, but a way of living. The next quote is, be aware of wonder, live a balanced life, learn some and think some, and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. I didn't realize that that was his quote, but it's a great one, and it's about balance. The next one, different and related, is this. Don't worry that children never listen to you. Worry that they are always watching you. And I'm going to change an important part of that sentence. Don't worry that children never listen to us. Worry that they are always watching us. That's one. And then the last one from Fulghum is this. Peace is not something you wish for. It's something you make, something you do, something you are, and something you give away. So I picked those four so that they are kind of juxtaposed, right? And we'll come back to them. But last, I want to share with you a Montessori quote. Children are human beings to whom respect is due, superior to us by reason of their innocence and of the greater possibilities of their future. And I want you to know that of all of these 5 quotes at Ross, we take all of them to heart in different ways, and you can see that in our core values and our mission and our vision. But I want you to know that everything that we do at Ross is based on the child and respect for them. And I hope that as you're getting ready to log on to your child's conference or make a phone call, that you know that we understand very much that depending on your experience as a student yourself, as a child, you might be a little bit nervous about conferences. You might have questions and comments going into it. And some might think that having what's called a student-led conference is kind of weird. And I want you to know that we don't think it's weird. And that's why we're utilizing them, because most learners are pretty self-aware. And we find that when we push that button and encourage it, it comes out more, if that makes sense. Super embarrassed, but you're all coming to my kitchen for just a second. Got to just pull the pizza and then we'll be good the rest of the time. Quick before we jump into the next part of this meeting. Janice, can I pick on you?
Yeah.
My God, me in the kitchen is the most frightening thing you'll ever see. When you were a child in Utah, did your school have what's called student-led conferences?
Definitely not.
Okay, tell me.
My mom brought me to one, and my teacher was very put off about that. And
Okay.
she had, so trying to figure out, what to do with your kids during parent-teacher conferences was a little tricky.
Why do you think it is, or what did your mom surmise? Wonder why you weren't invited to it. What was that about?
I don't know. I still don't know. But my mom had the opinion that I should be a part of it. Mom's an educator as well, you know.
Yes.
So see that it was a problem to bring me to my 4th grade parent-teacher conference at all.
I'm glad that you said 4th grade, because I'm going to read you something and I want you guys to guess. Here's the game. Was this written about me this week or earlier in my life? And yes, I did save all of my report cards because I'm that nerd. It's yellow paper. I'm giving away the answer. Sonia's doing fine in most areas. She does, however, need to be more independent and less talkative. PE was apparently not a strength because I was getting a bronze in the flexed arm hang. Have any of you seen mimeographs before? The purple? Do you remember this? They smelled amazing, and that was, yeah. Anyway, this was pre-Xerox, pre-copier, and apparently in PE, I was a bronze in the flexed arm hang. Raise your hand if you've had to use the flexed arm hang at all since 8th grade ended. Really, Janice? Schools in Utah, cutting edge. Okay, all right, hold on. And I'm gonna read you one more. This was in the June one, that same year. Sonia has become very inattentive in the last month. Well, I'm kind of wondering who wasn't inattentive in Arizona in June when it was hot out and the pools were opening. Just wondering. And then the last one, the reason that I read these to you, even though it is personal, report cards and conferences have changed a lot in the past couple decades, and sometimes they have not, and we'll talk about those ways. Here we go. She's quite capable when she tries, but can be careless and forgetful. Sonia has settled down a lot. I'm curious about that because I don't think that's ever happened. And it says, and usually is well behaved and helpful. This was me then. I think some of those sentences could be said of me today. So that goes back, and look at this. I've always been big into hairstyles. Look at that. Oh my, geez, so much has changed. So there's a Nietzsche quote that is, become who you are. And at Ross, we very much see our children, your children that you graciously loan to us during the day to educate. Thank you for that. We see them as very important stakeholders in their education. And because here's what happens. The talkative ones, the ones who are inattentive, when they're old people like me, then there's another, take a look at this. There's another report card that we get. Some of us take, leadership surveys, personality things to see what we are. That's still me. And I was her when I was 5, 8, 10, and 50, right? So this means I was a bossy pants with commands, but we get stuff done. The empathy is I care. An activator is I motivate. So at Ross, again, we take the mimeograph comments. I'm trying to show them again. And we look at your child and we see their strengths and we see what they need to work towards. And as Montessori educators, we're always following where they need to go, right? And just one last one. This is my favorite. In kindergarten, again, it's that Fulgham quote, everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten. In kindergarten, my mom got a note from Mrs. Patterson saying that sometimes Sonia, you have to say your name like that when you're reading your old report cards, maybe even current ones. I hope not. But Sonia tends to give dirty looks to other children in the class. And apparently it looked like this. Have you ever seen me make that face in the past 10 years? Anyone? Hands up. Okay. Here's why. This is my father. I was socialized very much, car shows, going to the dump. He was a coal miner. He worked real hard. And I see that our facial structures are similar. And, well, some might say my dad had an RBF. So, again, back to what we're doing this week at Ross, we hope to inform you about how your child, your little piece of gold that walks on earth outside of your body is doing. And we want to make it as friendly for you as possible. And if you have any concerns at all, feel free to hit the emails, right, ahead of time afterwards. But also know this, 15, 20-minute snapshots of your child, you're not going to get what we call an autopsy. You're going to get a physical. So one of the things that I know we're really good at Ross is regular communication, but get this, sometimes you have to reach halfway towards us, right? If you have an issue or concern, it doesn't do any good. Where's my crystal ball? Oh, Janice, I brought it to school. We can't do guessing games with each other, you guys. This is the week, the 2 days, but not really, where you find out what you need to know. It started 9 weeks ago and it goes, you know, as long as you have that teacher for your child. So what I'm trying to explain is we adore your child and we very much want to partner with you. And now I would like to turn over to you and just what questions do you have? What comments? If you want to talk about a really horrible experience, you may. The purpose of Town Hall is just to connect. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes my jokes go over better than others. But right now, I guess I'd just like to say, anybody have a comment or question about conferences? Go. You all need some coffee to calm down your brains.
I'll say that I love having my kids at conferences with me because it really clears up a lot of things, you know, even though my kids are my pieces of gold in my heart, sometimes, as I think is only human for all of us, we tell the version of the story that puts us in the best light. And it's great to have, you know, everybody's perspective in the room all at once or virtually across the virtual stream of the universe all at once.
I love it. And your child's teacher should be very non-biased. And if you ever feel, I told a parent this last week who was having, sometimes children don't separate from their parents very well in the morning. You've probably seen it. And it's like being on an airplane with the mom or dad with the newborn who cannot stop crying. And we're all in that plane and we're like, oh my God, that poor family, right? And you can't help them enough and you can't say they're, but it's the look, right? So I've told a parent, look, you are definitely struggling with your child with this morning. We're going to help. And if you ever feel like we say something judgmental or unkind, call us on that. Ask us, because we may not even be aware that we're doing it and we're open to that feedback. So if this might happen in the next couple of days, oh, your child's still going in your bed middle of the night. Oh, that's not good, right? And then you're kind of going, oh, I'm doing the best I can. Go ahead and just, you know how to communicate to other adults. Just say, oh my gosh, I'm just doing the best I can. Yes, I realize it's not ideal, working on it. And we will go, okay. Don't feel like you have to go into a conference and feel like timid or worried. At Ross, all of our professionals are excellent working with children. And I'm going to share a little secret with you. Sometimes on the eve of parent-teacher conferences, some of my amazing educators are kind of nervous themselves. Does anybody have any idea why that would be? Give me a hand up and just shout it out if you do. Why would we be nervous about conferences?
Hey, it's Candace. I
Hi,
don't have
Candace.
I don't have my video on because you don't want to see what's going on here.
Okay, that's good.
And I appreciate your candidness because we need it right now. I just have to say that, you know, I think that all teachers are always worried about the expectation that's put on them as well, and pleasing others, or they wouldn't be teachers, right? You know, you guys are all so. And then I'm an 7th grader's parent, so I've been at Ross since he was in Sebastian was in 2nd grade, and I have to say I've always really enjoyed the conferences. They were nothing like me growing up. Sebastian is not like being part of the conferences, but that started last year, I think. And he does so well in them, number one. And number two, he had his conference already via Zoom. He was with CFER, and to see the development of him being able to talk to his teacher, right? Because that's what your goal is. Your goal is they're going to talk to their teachers in high school and college and the world, was really neat, because as much as he thought it was a waste of his time this year, by the way,
Interesting. He actually
but
looked really confident and in charge, and that's
yeah,
an interesting adolescent playing thing. They might say
exactly.
that, and he actually
Exactly.
performed like a pro. Yes.
Exactly. So it warms my heart. As Sonia knows, we had a tough year last year, and that was, I think, hormonal and all the other things that go on in 6th grade. And it's just really, he's changed and flourished, and Seifer and him had a great conference. And then I asked some questions, and it was really neat. It was great. I like what you're doing.
Candace,
Yeah.
thank you for saying that. And I will tell you this is the fun part of being on the town halls, which, as I've said, we'll try to do every 2 weeks, different topics for different reasons. But I've told Miss Mandy, I haven't done a Christmas card letter in my family, like from this desk, in about 11 years, because I'm not always proud of what's going on. So I understand what you're saying. Keep that camera off. Do it.
Thanks.
You can look at Facebook if you want to know what's really going on. Michelle,
I
yes.
have a comment. So I've been a teacher in a school that fully embraced student-led portfolio conferences. And from a teacher's perspective, I can understand it is nerve-wracking, because you become really invested in the students' achievement and growth. And you watch the process unfolding. And here we are at week 8, but you have so much hope, and you want the child to be able to articulate the whole process of, here's where I was, and this is where I am now, and this is where I'm heading. And when you're in that situation, it doesn't always go exactly as you had hoped as a teacher, even if you coached, even if you spent 3 weeks coaching them to do the portfolio conference. It's an authentic experience, but it's going to unfold however it unfolds. And I think that it's okay for it to be really imperfect, because we're in a process. It's not till 8th grade that they are really well rehearsed at delivering a portfolio conference and speaking to their learning style and speaking to what they've learned about themselves. And this is, so wherever we all fall on the spectrum, whether we're kindergarten parents or 2nd grade parents or 8th grade parents, we're going to see the unfoldment of that, but we won't see the end product until 8th grade. And so just having faith that this is, as your child works through, this is a work in progress. And so really revel in being in the middle of that evolution, that it's not going to be perfect right away, that you'll be so proud at 8th grade, but right now it's the messy part. And it's just so being patient and letting them be who they are, and then allowing it to become an authentic dialogue that, learning goes like this, and it's going to be evident in the portfolios. It's going to be evident in how articulate they are, how not articulate they are.
That's
So
right.
just, anyway, I
Yeah,
hope that
thank
I
you.
didn't articulate that very well.
No, you did. And ready for the last part, and it's important. Teachers who spend their entire day with children of a certain age group it's a true statement, really start to relate to that age group, right? And you wouldn't believe sometimes, Mandy's right there on screen. Part of our role at Ross with adults is coaching, cognitive coaching and supportive coaching of, you can call and tell that parent that. And they're always a little worried. Some of it is just experience, but some have had the experience that parents really freak out when you say or tell. And they also have, again, going back to the age group, you start to really find companionship and safety and comfort with the age group that you teach. So I've worked with middle school teachers and high school teachers, and sometimes I walk away from a conversation, I'm like, wow, felt like I was talking to a teenager, and not in a bad way, but it starts to become your kind of your idiolect, right? And so just know that on both sides of the equation, everyone wants the best for your child wants that too. And so sometimes just taking in feedback that we give and sitting on it for a little while, take the weekend, maybe send off an email on Monday afternoon, hey, I've got a follow-up question, Something that's started with the invention of internet and email is people tend to go to confession on their keyboard. And sometimes I see emails that are sent very well intended from parents and teachers, and they're sent at 11:30 at night, 12:15 at night. And I this summer learned this really great feature at the bottom of the email, and it says schedule send, and it makes everyone look a little less crazy. And sometimes I tend towards some habits of workaholism. And on the weekend, I hit that Monday at 8, Monday at 8. So remember, all of this is communication and just humans being humans. And it's so okay to have a follow-up question or comment. Sometimes it's the delivery, which we know with feedback, it's a gift. And sometimes it feels punitive. And so just a couple of tricks. Maybe hang on to, if you don't know how to do that schedule feature, just hang on to the draft and don't send it at 2:30 in the morning, because what that tells unintentionally the educators that are amazing at Ross, that we all care for, is you're really amped up and you need an answer RFN, which is a little sooner than now. So just kind of some tips from me of what I've seen go well and what I've seen go sideways really quickly. It's just style. Does that make sense? I'm also not trying to sound like Sister Mary Delbert Weissensell, who definitely wrote some punitive things about me when I did get switched to Catholic school for just those couple years. She referred to my verbal capacity as diarrhea of the mouth. I've also talked with teachers, and we all are totally on board. We do not want to be the reason that your kid is carving initials in their arm as grown-ups or on a counseling couch. So we frequently say, remember, 2 stars and 1 wish. So like no parent out there that I know or don't know ever wants to hear 2 bad things about their child and 1 kind of, they're really reaching. So we always do this, and we mean it. 2 great things, 1 thing we want to work on. So make sure to capture that, because as a parent head, sometimes I remember sitting in conferences or doctor's appointments, and I'm looking for the thing that's wrong. Remember to soak in the positive things just as much, if not more, because what Michelle said is right. Every year is like another kind of understudy for the big show, right? 8th grade, senior year, going to college. But remember, they might be this old. And also the tall kids get judged unfairly. If you have a tall child, I'm going to say right now, people always think they should act more mature or be mature than they are. And we have to remind ourselves, no, they're 8. Perfectly normal to fart on the bus and be naughty. We got to work with them on that. Any other questions or comments? Has anybody like felt a little nervous about going to a conference in the past? Lynn, what's that about? What's going on for you when that happens?
Well, my son is in 2nd grade, so I'm still pretty new to it. And yeah, my conferences were always terrible.
That makes me, I said to somebody at Ross today, that makes me so sad. And I wish I could like put you in a time machine and go back and have a different experience.
This is a time machine.
Right.
I feel like I'm going to school for the first time, and I'm doing it right this time, because it's a huge learning process. You guys are very patient with me. I am not organized. But yeah, everything experience we've had with Ross has been very positive.
Awesome.
So I do like I feel like the conferences are just one of those things where it's like, I know that what I went through kind of goes out the window, and I'm just open to a new process, and I'm trusting you. And so far, I feel like Santi's a very smart kid, so something's going right. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad that you said it is a time machine. That's an important, like not like, okay, so old principal that I worked with, not old, experience, and he's old too, so am I. Anyway, he said, Sonia, watch what happens at back to school night. And I said, what do you mean? He said, watch how some parents cruise right into the school. They're waving, they're taking names. It looks like they're running for mayor. And some of them walk very timidly in, and there's a palpable hesitation right at the door. How many of you think you're the Tigger and you just jump right in? Give me a thumbs up if you're that person. Give me a thumbs down if you're more of the hesitant. mix. And so it's important, I guess, in terms of this mindset. We've heard this for about the past 10 years. It was a very popular book. Zweck, I think, is the author. Remember when you cross that threshold or when you log on to Zoom, remember it's your heart that walks outside of your body, but also remember the person on the other side of the screen in this case very much sees that beautiful child for their strengths and what they're working towards. And it's almost like the teacher, like both of the adults on each side of the screen are almost the colleague or the employer. It's hard to divest yourself from what you're hearing about this perfect little person. And it's almost like a mindset that you have to get in before you hit log in, right? Hear and take in what we say and don't feel responsible for it. You guys, give me a break. For those of you who are at-home learners and supervising, it's God's work you're doing with, cutouts and beautiful color copies that Mandy is taking care of and hands-on materials, but we really don't expect you to be Montessori teachers. I remember when my daughter started at Ross as a 10-year-old, I was totally sunk. I did not know how to help her with the math at all. And like printing some worksheet from the internet was not going to be the same thing. So just remember, we're not blaming you. And we sometimes are just like begging for help, and we figure it out together. That was, thank you, Lynn, for saying that. And you do communicate with us very well. And I know you're busy. You drive in from Gypsum. I mean, you guys, do you know that at Ross, we have parents who come from 4 counties? A lot of commitment. So you just do the best you can.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. How many of you remember being at home when your parents were at the scheduled appointment and kind of worried to hear what was going to be said? Do any of you remember that? We take that away as well. And remember, I'll say this a couple times, I'm not trying to be redundant. Remember, if you do have a specific concern or question or comment that you feel like it would be better without your child, we don't have to make it awkward because you're in front of the same screen. Send a quick email. And remember, we'll respond. And remember, you're going to send it at 12:15 when you've had a couple and then you woke up and you're stressed about it? No, not here. It'd be normal to attempt it, but we don't do that. Okay, let's see. Your child has filled out in every classroom something that they're proud of and something that they're working on. Soak that in. That's because of your brain cells and the DNA or the adoptive DNA or the whatever that you have, and know that they're proud of what they're working on and they're still working towards perfection, which is elusive at best. As human beings, we just know that. Kelsey, I see you're on, and that is very exciting because you educate younger Montessori students. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Sonia, I can hear you.
Hi. So you're, I would say, pretty experienced Montessorian. Is there anything that you would like to ask or tell about conferences and what you understand is the purpose?
I think that I love that you guys are doing kind of the student-led conference. I think that it gives the student this chance at more of a leadership role with those whom he or she probably spends the most time with. I also think that it is important to just teacher partnerships and kind of what that envelops. In Montessori, we kind of have that triangular idea of the environment, the adult, and then the child as well.
Yes.
And so I think about that a lot. And so within that, you guys are using the environment, or more so kind of the child guiding that within the teacher, and then their kind of directed guides that are within that child's life. So I think it's a great idea. I'm really excited to see JJ and Brianna both go through theirs, and yeah.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions about conferences? Anything about NWA reports? Mandy, we changed that this week. Are we sending home the reports next week? What did we decide on that?
Sorry. Hi. Um, all of your testing reports, the actual like printed copies, will come home next week, next Monday. But your teacher should be able to talk about them a little bit during parent-teacher conferences if you like. I've had some parents say like, yeah, you can just send it. Like, we don't need to talk about it. It's fine. And other parents kind of want to know that stuff right away, right up front. So, you know, I think for these student-led parent-teacher conferences, let your child lead, as a lot of you have said already, Michelle and Kelsey and Sonia, let your child lead. And then if there's time at the end, you can ask something about the standardized testing that they've done. But we all know that the standardized tests show this much of your child's growth and development, whereas we are looking at the whole child. So, you know, I would suggest that you don't focus too much on those. And also, we have seen, and nationally, schools have seen, that test scores are horrible right now. With everyone going home in March and then being online, being isolated from other human beings, and then, you know, taking a test in a mask and all the rest, right? All the rest of the pressure that is on us, including on our children, the test scores aren't looking great, you know, kind of across the board. So if your child is, you know, their scores are not where they were, before COVID, then just trust your child and trust us that we'll get them where they need to be.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
One last
Lisa,
thing.
can I say one last thing?
Yes, please.
Yes, I just wanted to say, kind of going into it, I work with much younger children, and I work much more with kind of that social emotional development. And I know JJ, I'm just going to go out there. JJ gets nervous before speaking in front of multiple people. And I think it's important to remember that going into conferences, they're going to be nervous, just like we're going to be nervous, or the teachers are going to be nervous.
100%.
And to have compassion for them. And just remember being them kind of as you were speaking. Anyways, that's my
Yeah.
last word.
No, that was well said. And so one of my teachers said today, I'm excited that we're having student-led conferences, and for those who can't pull it off to that level, it's okay too. Teacher will jump in, you'll jump in, it'll be fine. One last little activity, and again, you'll get used to these town halls because we'll try to do them again every 2 weeks, but thumbs up if you've got some of your own school pictures from growing up. It's important, and something that I did every year as my daughter was growing up, and now she's 19. I would pull out what pictures I had, and I'd look at, oh, she's in 5th grade now. Here's me in 5th grade. And I try to really remember and connect with my heart with what was going on. And some of you on this screen have good memories and bad memories and everywhere in between. And remember, we don't want perfection at Ross. We want engagement, hard work, and we want to grow their focus. And when our kids leave us, they do great things. They're self-motivated. They set goals, they achieve them. And so just remember, it was well said before, every year in the conferences and learning about what's going on, it's just a snapshot of your child's life. And I remember once I looked at the photo album with my husband, and he said, oh yeah, 2nd grade was the year my parents split. And he said, I just remember. I said, what do you remember about that? And he said, well, a couple things, but one of the things was I remembered that's when the yelling stopped. My parents were together till my dad passed away 8 years ago. And he said it was a relief in a way, and then his entire life changed. But just remember, with all of those changes that are going on for people, if you've moved residences, William Bridges in his book called Transitions, he says that everybody needs about 7 years to fully accept and internalize a change. Okay, so you move, boom, move and divorce, that's technically 14 years. That's a lot. So just remember, COVID's happening, we're stressed. Some of us have now have change of hours at our jobs. aren't sure when the next job is happening, what that will look like. And everything that we bring and wear on our shoulders, our children tend to pick up on all of it. And that was one of the prime reasons that we wanted to reopen at Ross, because you need help raising these young, amazing human beings. And that's what we're here for. So I feel like we've had a very positive year so far. I feel like people, I know how appreciative we are at Ross to be able to have the children back and be around each other. We've had so many positive comments this year from parents and community for opening. It just feels like we're on a little bit of a unicorn rainbow high, for no better word. You know, I love the unicorn thing, Mandy. But enjoy this time with your teacher. And just remember, imperfect perfect is what's going on, and we're all doing our best. So I just wanted to kind of do a pep talk or a chalk talk, and know that we all take this very seriously, and we're so happy to have this opportunity for face-to-face learning. And thank you all so much for taking all the COVID symptom checking so seriously. One parent did ask me if I would kind of give a shout out about flu shots, and I will. And I will say this: I am kind of a weirdo about the flu shot, because every year we're told to get it. And every year it feels like at the end of winter, they say, oh, shoot, that was the wrong formula. And I'm always like, So about 10 years ago, I quit getting flu shots, and I don't get the flu. But this year, to be a good role model for staff members who were offered a free flu shot at school, I'm going to say this year, why not? And we all know 80% chance they're going to say, oh, shoot, that was the wrong one. But here's what the doctors are saying. They're saying, but it could make your flu shorter, and it could prevent somebody else from getting sick. So that's my stance on flu. And I won't say that Ross takes one, but you know, you get it.
We
Okay.
haven't gotten the flu shot in years because my daughter's allergic to eggs and, the
Yeah.
whole thing. I feel like, given what you just said, we are also thankful to be back in person. And the fact that we have to keep them home if there is a slight headache, if there is a tiny tickle in the throat, if there is a low grade fever, that is cause for alarm. And so if our kids happen to get the seasonal flu or cold, whatever that strain is, if we can prevent any of those strains, because, again, like, we don't usually get it, but we can't afford the mental health of keeping them home every time they get a runny nose.
Right.
We will. But anyway, I'm thinking about that in terms of, this is more of a community effort versus just, well, these are our beliefs. And
they do offer the mist. I think they can do the mist if you have an egg allergy. So
yeah, I'm not worried about the egg allergy right now.
right.
Actually, they actually have a vaccine that it's a shot and it's fine, but
We
it
had
just
about
feels
20
like you're eliminating.
take the shot, and 1 out of 20 had that reaction and just kind of felt crummy the next day, slept all day, turned it down, came back up the next day. So if that means anything. Okay. Have a good night, you guys. I'm going to go eat my cold pizza. Okay, bye. Thank you.